There is a world running alongside your own. Not beneath it, not above it. Alongside it, close enough that you have passed through it thousands of times without knowing. It moves in the same air you breathe. It occupies the same roads, the same rails, the same skies. But most people cannot see it. Most people. Here is what we know. When something carries enough people, across enough miles, through enough years, something begins to grow inside it. Something quiet, something patient, something that watches. We call them spirits for lack of a better word. They are not ghosts, they are not gods, they are not dangerous. They are simply present, aware, shaped by every life that passed through them, every commuter who fell asleep against a window, every child who pressed their nose to the glass, every person who made it home. All of that stays somewhere. They are everywhere if you know how to look. There are spirits in the old ships that still run the same harbor routes they have run for 40 years. Spirits in the long-haul trucks on the overnight highways, moving through the dark with the particular patience of things that have crossed the same distance many times. There are spirits in the small city buses that know every pothole on their route, in the passenger ferries that have watched the same skyline change, slowly, over decades. And then there are the train spirits. Older than most, quieter than most, moving through the world on fixed paths, carrying more people in a single day than most things carry in a year. They have had a long time to think. Here is the other thing you should know. Most adults cannot see them. At some point, no one knows exactly when, no one remembers it happening, the ability simply fades. The world narrows, what was once visible becomes background. But children can see them. Very young children, the ones who haven't yet learned what is and isn't supposed to be there. The ones who press both hands flat against train windows for reasons their parents cannot explain. The ones who wave at things that don't wave back. This is the story of three train spirits. One old, one young, one who has been carrying weight across dark routes for long enough that she has mostly made her peace with the unanswerable questions. They live in the hours after the last passengers leave. In the quiet of the yard, when the lights go low and the platform's empty and the world, the one you can see, finally goes still. This is what happens then. This is the after hours line. Welcome to the Portal Library. Step through and let the magic begin. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you'd love more stories or have a request. New videos uploaded every Friday. The After Hours Line, a short comedy. Chapter 1, The Last Run. The last passengers left platform 7 at 11:42. A small boy, maybe 2 years old, sat in his mother's arms as she gathered her bags. He had spent the entire ride pressed against the window, one hand flat on the glass, staring at the front of the train with wide, unblinking eyes. As his mother lifted him away from the window, the boy turned back. He raised one small hand and waved. Remy watched him go. The platform lights dimmed. The station doors clicked shut. The last attendant wheeled his cart through the service corridor, and the sound of his wheels faded down the hall. The depot fell quiet. Remy settled into the stillness the way he always did, slowly, with the particular satisfaction of a long shift ending. His wheels rested on the cool track. His carriages aligned neatly behind him in the dark. Then, from the next track over, a voice. "Did you see that kid?" said Pip. "I saw him," Remy said. "He waved at you for like 10 minutes straight." "8," said Remy. His mother counted. Pip rattled with delight, his front coupling shook. "That's the third one this week, you've got to type." Remy didn't answer. He'd had thousands of children wave at him over the years. He never got tired of it. He just didn't feel the need to announce that. The third track groaned. Duna had pulled in late, as usual. She moved slowly, with the patience of something that had been carrying weight for so long it had simply become part of how she moved. "Busy night," she said. "Always is," Pip replied. "For you," Duna settled into her berth, "I had 12 containers of frozen fish." Pip considered this. "That sounds terrible." "It was fine," said Duna. "Fish don't complain." Chapter 2, After Hours. By midnight, the yard was theirs. This was how it had always worked, as far as any of them knew. The humans went home. The machines went quiet. And the spirits, those particular, peculiar presences that had grown into certain trains over years of use, came fully awake. No one had explained the rules to Remy. He had simply noticed, one night many decades ago, that when the yard emptied, he could think more clearly, could speak, could listen, could feel the long memory of every passenger he had ever carried, sitting quietly in the back of his awareness like a warm weight. Pip had no such history of reflection. He was young as these things went. Okay, Pip said, I need to tell you both something. Then tell us, said Duna. I had a situation today. Pip's couplings shifted. On the 11 o'clock, a woman got on with twins, maybe 18 months old, both of them. Duna was quiet for a moment. Twins do that. I know, but they were pointing at different parts of me. One of them pointed at my front end and said something, and the other one pointed up at the ceiling area where I am, I guess, and said something back. Pip paused. They argued about it for 6 stops. What were they arguing about? Remy asked. I have no idea, that's the part that bothers me. Pip's voice dropped slightly. What if they could see me more clearly than the other kids do, and now they're going to grow up and tell people? They won't remember, said Duna. Pip stopped. None of them remember, Duna continued. By the time they are old enough to say what they saw, they can't see it anymore. That's just how it is. The yard was quiet for a moment. Does that bother you? Pip asked. Duna didn't answer immediately. Sometimes, she said, less than it used to. Chapter 3. The cat arrived at midnight. It came through a gap in the yard fence that the maintenance crew had been meaning to fix for 3 weeks. It was a large, gray, profoundly unconcerned cat, and it walked the length of the yard with the deliberate ease of something that had done this many times before. It stopped in front of Remy's track. It sat down. It looked at Remy with the particular expression that cats use when they want you to understand that they are doing you a favor simply by being present. He's back, said Pip. He never left, said Duna. He sleeps under the fuel shed. Does he see us? Pip asked. Yes, said Remy. How do you know? Remy didn't answer immediately. The cat had not moved. It was still watching him with that flat, evaluating gaze. Because he always sits exactly where I can see him, Remy said. The cat stood, stretched one back leg slowly behind it, and then walked in a long, unhurried arc toward Duna's track. It sniffed one of her wheels. It sneezed. Then it turned and walked back toward the fuel shed without looking at any of them again. He sneezed on me, said Duna. He does that, said Remy. I know he does that. I'm noting it for the record. What record? Said Pip. The record, said Duna, of things that have happened to me. Pip was quiet for a moment. Do you actually keep a record? No, said Duna, but if I did, that would be in it. Chapter 4. The disagreement it started, as these things often did with Pip. Can I ask something? Pip said. You're going to anyway, said Duna. Do you think we chose this, being what we are? Remy considered the question. What do you mean? I mean, were we always going to end up as spirits? Or did something make us this way? Like, is there a reason it's us and not every other train? I think about this sometimes, Remy said. And I don't know, Remy said. I've been doing this a long time and I still don't know. Duna made a low sound. It doesn't matter. Pip's couplings shifted. How does it not matter? Because here we are, said Duna. Knowing why doesn't change it. It changes how I feel about it, said Pip. Does it? Duna asked. Pip paused. I think so. You think so? Duna repeated. She didn't say it unkindly. She said it the way someone says something when they want the other person to listen to themselves. Pip was quiet for a while. It matters to me, he said more quietly this time. That's all I'm saying. I'd like to know. Remy had been listening without speaking. He understood both of them. Duna had been carrying weight across long dark routes for long enough that the unanswerable questions had simply worn smooth. Pip had not been doing this long enough for that yet. I think, Remy said, that we became this because enough people felt something when they rode us. Not anything big, just something. A child pressing their hand against the glass. a person making it home after a long day. Enough of those moments and something stays. The yard was quiet. That's a nice idea, Pip said. It might not be true, Remy said. I know, I still like it. Duna didn't say anything for a moment. Then, it's not the worst explanation. Coming from Duna, Remy knew that was a great deal. I hope you are enjoying this story so far. Check out the links in the description down below to listen to other heartwarming stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Chapter 5, The One Remy Remembered. It was Pip who asked next, the question he always circled around on quiet nights. Remy, do you ever think about specific kids, the ones who saw you? Remy took a long time before answering. There was a girl, he said. A long time ago. She used to ride with her grandmother every Saturday morning, same route, same seat, corner seat, second carriage. She always sat with her face turned to the window. Pip waited. What happened? Pip asked. She had this way of looking at me, Remy said, not at the window, at me, like she understood there was something there worth paying attention to. He paused. She did that for about 2 years every Saturday. She had this way of looking at me, Remy said. She stopped seeing me, Remy said. The way they all do. One Saturday she got on, sat in her seat, looked out the window, and I just wasn't there for her anymore. She was looking at the platform, at the other passengers, at her phone eventually. Duna was still. But she kept riding the same route, Remy said. Every Saturday for years after, same seat, same corner. He paused again. I always thought that meant something. Maybe she just liked the seat, Pip said. Maybe, said Remy. He didn't sound troubled by either possibility. Duna spoke after a moment. I had one too, she said. Both Remy and Pip waited. Duna rarely volunteered this kind of thing. A boy, she said, at the crossing near the Harrow Depot. A farmhouse sits right on the edge of the field there, close enough to the fence that you could see the back window from the track. She paused. He used to stand at the window when I passed, every morning, 5 days a week. How old? Pip asked. 3 when I first noticed him, maybe 4. Duna settled slightly. He had a toy train he used to hold up, pressed against the glass. Like he was showing me. The yard was very quiet. Did you ever? Pip started. I slowed down, said Duna. The crossing had a speed limit. I always took it slower than I had to, so he'd have more time. Neither Remy nor Pip said anything. He stopped coming to the window, Duna said. At 1:20, something unusual happened. A woman came through the station's side entrance, the one the cleaning staff used. She was still in her work clothes and she was moving quickly, pulling a wheeled bag behind her with one hand and carrying a sleeping child against her shoulder with the other. She had missed the last train. She stood on the empty platform and looked at the board for a long time. Then, she sat down on a bench and shifted the child in her arms so she could check her phone. The child was not asleep. He was perhaps 3 years old, and he had been pretending, in the way that young children sometimes do when they are tired but not yet ready to admit it. His eyes were open the moment his mother's attention moved to her phone. He looked down the platform. He looked at Remy. Remy had not moved. The yard lights were low. He was sitting still in the dark beyond the platform's edge, barely visible. The boy stared. Then, carefully, so as not to wake his mother's attention, he raised one hand and gave a small, private wave. The kind meant only for the two of them. Remy felt it the way he always felt these moments, somewhere in the long, settled weight of everything he carried. Someone's looking, Pip said quietly from the next track. I see him, said Remy. What are you going to do? Remy considered this for a moment. Then, very slowly, he let out a long, soft breath of air through his ventilation, barely anything, just enough to make the nearest platform sign sway gently in the dark. The boy's eyes went wide. His mother looked up from her phone. She looked down the platform. She saw nothing unusual and went back to her screen. He pressed both hands flat against the air in front of him, delighted. As if reaching toward something just out of reach, he made a small sound, not quite a word, not quite a laugh, and buried his face against his mother's shoulder. He pressed both hands flat against the air in front of him, delighted. The boy turned his face back toward Remy and grinned. That was unnecessary, said Duna. I know, said Remy. You enjoyed that, said Pip. Yes, said Remy. He didn't feel the need to explain further. Chapter 7. By 4 in the morning, the yard had grown still in a different way. Not the alert stillness of midnight, but the soft, drowsy stillness of the hours before dawn. Pip had gone quiet first. His couplings settled and his presence faded into a low hum, the way it always did when he was resting. Duna had barely spoken since the story about the boy at the crossing. She simply was large, steady, patient. Remy stayed awake the longest, he usually did. He thought about the boy at platform 7, the small hand on the glass. The wave. He thought about the twins on Pip's train, having their serious, incomprehensible debate about whatever it was they saw. He thought about the boy on the platform tonight, the private wave in the dark, the delight on his face when the sign swayed. He thought about Duna slowing at the Harrow crossing, still slowing after all this time, for a window that probably had different curtains now. The first maintenance worker arrived at 5:45. He walked the length of the yard with his clipboard, checking wheels and brake lines, writing things down. He did not look up. At 6:15, the yard manager arrived and unlocked the dispatch office. By 6:30, the first driver of the morning was climbing into Pip's cab, adjusting her seat and checking her instruments. Pip came fully awake. His presence shifted, the way it always did when a new day began, attentive, quick, ready. Morning, Pip said, though no one heard him. Remy watched the yard brighten. On platform 4, a woman arrived early with a child in a carrier on her chest. The child, small enough to still be mostly asleep, opened one eye as the platform filled with light. The eye found Remy. It stayed there. Remy held very still, the way he had learned to do, so as not to startle them. The child's mouth opened slightly. A soft, wondering sound, the kind that didn't need words yet. Good morning, Remy said quietly. The child stared at him for a long moment. Then smiled. The end. Quote of the week: childhood is the most beautiful of all life seasons. A Jerry Smith. Cast of characters. Remy, spirit of an old diesel locomotive. Warm, unhurried, full of opinions. Has been around long enough to feel like everybody's uncle. Pip, spirit of a small commuter train. Young, quick, easily excited, still figuring things out. Duna, spirit of a freight train. Broad and steady, speaks in short sentences, rarely wrong. The yard, the central depot where all trains rest after service. At midnight, it becomes the spirit's space. Thank you for listening to the After Hours line. Hope you enjoyed this story. If you want to hear more, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. New stories are uploaded every Friday.